Okay, welcome to the rant. And yes, I am in a completely different location. In fact, this is probably going to be the location that the rant's going to be shot from the next, well, definitely the next few months at least. Um, I've muted on the channel several times that I was looking to move at some point in the new year. Well, that has kind of happened. Um, I was going to move into a new house. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, that has fallen through. I'm a bit miffed about it. Uh, and it was sort of a last minute thing. I was all set to go, and all of a sudden, bang, the rug's pulled out from underneath you, which is not great. Which, of course, then means that I've already served notice on the place I was living in, so I needed to move. So, very kindly, one of my friends has said I can stay here and I can shoot my videos from here for the foreseeable future until things get straightened out and I find another place that I want to live. And finding places to live is not as easy as it might sound. That's really one of the things I've come across since starting looking last October. So what it does mean is I have this fantastic space in order where I can actually shoot videos now. And it is a lovely space. It's lovely and big. It's got lots of lights. There's windows there. There's windows behind me. I'm probably going to have to change the camera arrangement to work out how to best light this space because of the amount of natural light that comes into it. I mean, that's the reason why this curtain is closed at the moment, is because the camera was struggling with the white balance between me and the outside. Hence the reason why the outside now looks completely bleached out behind me. But I just have to share this with the washing machine and the tumble dryer, which are off camera over there. But it is a great space. It's nice and big, unlike sort of filming in the studio or filming in my front room, as I was. This is an empty space that I can just use. Brilliant, hey? So what are we going to talk about? Well, moving house feels like a bit of a reset for me personally. As you know, this is not a large channel. It's a fairly small channel. It's a fairly niche subject. It is slowly growing in size and people who subscribe to the channel. I said before, it doesn't make a huge amount of money. It doesn't make me $250,000 a week like some channels do. It's more like £2.50 a week is what the channel generates. So it's not a money spinning venture, as you can see. But in the past, as I've said, I just enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking to camera and then seeing the comments that you guys, when you see the videos, leave on the channel. And that's one of the reasons why I do this. So the reason why it feels like a bit of a milestone at the same time as a reset is that the channel is approaching 1,500 subscribers. Now, in the sort of grand YouTube ecosphere, 1,500 subscribers is not a big channel. By no means. It is a big channel. I mean, there are people out there who have millions of subscribers. But for me, 1,500 subscribers is actually quite humbling. In fact, actually, at this point in time, the counter says 1,490. So I've got 10 more subscribers. That's two of those. Excuse me. I've got 10 subscribers that I need to get. Now, one of the things I can remember is I can remember the feeling 5 years ago when the channel started and the first subscriber hit that subscribe icon. I can remember that because I felt incredibly, I use the word humble, but I do feel humble that somebody has actually can be bothered to watch the content that I am actually videoing. Now, I do find that, I say, humbling, and I find it very humbling that the fact that another 1,489 people have also hit the same icon to subscribe to the channel. It's done because I enjoy doing it. So, if you are watching this and you watch the channel on a regular basis and you haven't hit that subscribe icon or hit the bell icon if you have subscribed, please do so because we'll get to that 1,500 milestone much, much quicker. I should be there in a matter of weeks, but, it'd be nice to get there quicker. I go back to the reason why I feel humbled, because I feel humbled that somebody values my opinion. And over the last couple of years, I personally haven't felt particularly valued because of what's been going on in my private life. Uh, I've had a very nasty divorce experience. It sort of doesn't install me into the throes of marriage again. I have to be honest, but the fact that people actually want to listen to what I say, I find quite humbling, or see the videos I make about the various pieces of equipment that I've got. I find that incredibly humbling. But it also is important to recognise that during this period, during this journey period, and the reason why the channel's had such very big dropouts over those 5 years is because of me being quite depressed. Now, I don't like admitting that I've been depressed, but I have been depressed. So periods of extreme depression are very difficult to climb out of, and you have to climb out of them. And you climb out of them generally with friends around you that help you. And I'm not going to go into extreme depression or anything like that on the channel because it's not really what it's all about. But what I will do is say one thing. Look around your circle of friendship, okay? Look at the people in your circle of friendship who seem to be having a tough time and just ask if you can help. Now, I don't mean give them money. I don't mean many other things. What I'm really saying is be a shoulder or an ear for them to talk to. Be somebody who can just listen to their problems. Don't give advice, because advice you're not qualified for that. But just be a sounding post. Be somebody that they can talk to, somebody that they can potentially offload to, because after they've started talking about how they're feeling, they will feel a lot better, and you start to give them the rungs to climb out of that depression hole they're in. And I'm going to leave it at that. Something to bear in mind. And I paused the video there because I was feeling myself welling up a bit. So back to the music. Okay, so normally people do a recap of the year in December, late December, or just after the new year. Me, I'm going to do it in February. It seems like the right time to do a recap because what we've done in the UK is, as of last Friday, which was 2 days ago, we left the European Union. Well, actually, we didn't leave the European Union. Nothing actually changes. All that's happened is they've taken the flags down in Brussels. But we actually officially will leave the European Union at the end of the year once all the transitionary things have happened. So it seems a good time now to do a recap. Now, one of the features that I get great joy out of is actually reading the comments and questions that you guys leave on the channel. I find, I said a few times that, I'm slowly, with the filtering that YouTube have now put on the channel, catching up with comments and questions that I haven't answered because they've just got lost into the menagerie of comments and questions that are left on the channel. And I'm getting a lot more comments and questions. And they're quite diverse in what you're saying to me. Some of you are agreeing with statements I've made, some of you are disagreeing with statements I've made, some of you are asking questions, some of you are actually proposing questions about different areas of music or the technology behind music. Now, all I ask when you leave a question or a comment on the channel is that you're civil and constructive. I don't deal well with people who can't be civil. And if you're really quite obnoxious, you will just get blocked. Fair enough. Because I don't do obnoxious people. Why should I? And if you are being, if you're being civil, courteous, and you've got a valid point, I'm open to all kinds of points. And I'm not saying I get it right all the time, but I really enjoy reading the comments and the questions that you guys leave on the channel. And as I say, I'm slowly starting to catch up. But last year I took a conscious decision that I would really, really sort of try to keep on top of these comments and questions that come onto the channel, which is really why I started pushing the mailbag feature and doing mailbags, lots more mailbags, rather than what I was doing was kind of saving them up and releasing sort of 3 or 4 at one go. And I record at least one mailbag feature every single week. of comments and questions. And then there can be comments and questions that have been recently left on the channel, or they could be comments and questions that are left some time on the channel as I'm catching stuff up. And I try to be diverse as well in terms of don't just concentrate on one thing, because I mean, there are a lot of comments on things like the T1 and comments on other instruments I've got, so the Oasis, the Kronos. So there's lots of comments about sort of in sections, and what I try to do is I try to pick from a selection just to make the sort of mailbags fairly interesting. So I'm probably going to have to actually ramp up my mailbag production, if you like, in the coming year, just to try and catch up with everything you guys are saying, because there are more and more comments being left on the channel every single week. That I think one mailbag a week is probably not going to be enough, but we shall see how that goes. The question really is to you guys out there: do you find the mailbag interesting, useful? I definitely enjoy making them. I definitely enjoy sometimes when people ask questions I really don't know the answer, having to go and look the answer up and then testing it out. So it expands my knowledge definitely. So, leave me a comment. Say whether you'd enjoy them. Say if you want the format changed. I kind of like this sort of the one question, one answer format that I'm doing at the moment. It works quite well. It also means I can actually record things in stages rather than having to sort of just record stuff as we go. So I just had to close another curtain behind me because I noticed that the white balance was really getting quite profound in here. So, in terms of stuff that has turned up in the studio this year, right at the beginning of the year, I noticed that I was waving around a disc piece of media, saying I bought this piece of media from somebody on eBay because it was S750 samples, and I couldn't access it because I didn't have I didn't know how to read it. I thought it was some sort of CD when I actually saw it when I originally purchased it, not realizing that, as you guys rightly pointed out to me, it was a SideQuest drive. And therefore I needed a SideQuest drive reader and all the SCSI apparel that went with it. So after a lot of hunting around the internet, I managed to find myself a SideQuest drive. I also managed to find myself some SideQuest, some SCSI cables, because believe me, SCSI terminators and SCSI cables aren't the easiest things to source nowadays. And of course, you've got the different SCSI interfaces. So you've got the pin interfaces and the card interfaces that go with them. So you've got to get the right interface and the right cables for the right interface. Haha. Anyway, that arrived, and I realise at the moment. Oh no, I have switched the microphone on. I thought then I just spent the last 1 minute and 1.5 minutes speaking and no microphone. But hey ho. Also in March, a second MKS20 turned up, and it was a sort of Herculean effort to get through the bubble wrap to get into this thing. It was so well wrapped. I mean, all credit to the guy who sent it to me. I mean, he really did make sure that. I think you could have hit the thing with a wrecking ball, and it probably wouldn't have made a dent on it because of the amount of bubble wrap between it and the unit. Anyway, so. That turned up, and I was really, really wondering whether I keep two or whether I'd service one and sell it on. But I have actually kept both of them. I tend to find I am using both of them, which quite surprised me. But it's one of those things, I suppose, if you've got them, you use them. And that's kind of how I'm finding what I'm doing with it at the moment. So really, really wonderful to have two MKS20s that you can turn to. I love the sound of the RD 1000 piano, and that's what the MKS20 kind of gives you. In March again, there was some sort of pictures started circulating on the media feeds about an updated version of the EMU SP1200. How would I describe the SP1200? Well, the way I describe the SP1200, to be honest, is it's a kind of groove box with a sequencer. Sort of AK, the Akai sort of stuff that we see around, and what Roland just released, which is the MC707 style device. Anyway, the rumours happened to sort of were traced back to the Isla Instruments Skunk Works, where Brad and his crew were just seeing if there was interest in this particular unit. So here we are 9 months later after that, having ordered one, and seeing a video yesterday morning from Brad saying that he expects to start shipping in about 10 weeks. So I'm quite looking forward to actually receiving that, because I'm quite looking forward. I've never really owned that style of device before, but it has sort of made me sort of think about owning that style of device. So we'll see what happens. But I really am looking forward to sort of receiving this unit. Then we move on to April, and another sort of rumor mill style operation going on, sort of about the same time as the Thomann synth reactor, where Behringer started releasing pictures of a black drum machine akin to an 808 and a cream drum machine akin to a 929, and they started getting some momentum up. Well, here we are, just before Christmas, 9 months later, and I am the proud owner of an RD8, which I thoroughly enjoy playing. More videos about the RD8 to happen in this lovely new space as I start to experiment. Again, also in April, I got the DT7 out of its box properly and started playing with the DT7 for controlling and programming the DX7. Now, all these legacy synthesizers all were, you could program from the front interface of the synthesizer itself, but it was an utter faff, because you had effectively 1 or 2 lines of LCD display, and you were expected to be able to program all the parameters from various menus and submenus that actually did that. Whereas the DT7 effectively gives you all that control for every single oscillator and every single parameter pretty much as a pot on the front of the interface. And you can effectively pull up an algorithm and then start programming that algorithm. The only thing I'd said about the DT7 is you've got to get your head around how which algorithm you selected, because that makes a big difference. And B, you've got to start thinking about how the synthesizer itself is actually generating the sound. Once you've got your head around that, it's fairly easy to actually use the DT7 to create some fairly funky stuff. So really great stuff, the DT7. Unfortunately, that is now in storage with a lot of the other gear as the studio is being packed up. So it probably won't come out again for a while. Then in June, I started the experiment with the Rolly Up keyboard. How should I say? The jury's out on the experiment, I have to be honest. I think the whole concept of the Rolly Up keyboard is brilliant in terms of you can take it anywhere, you can plug it into your computer, you can use it as a controller, you can play notes into the computer. Brilliant. Use the VSTs on the computer for sound. That whole concept, really, really good. Downsides, why I say the jury is out. The keyboard, if you're used to playing a proper keyboard, the keyboard is actually quite hard to get used to, and the tones that the thing push out are akin to a Casio toy. Okay, pluses and minuses to using that. Then again in June, following a few gins and a bit of late night bidding on eBay, I managed to acquire a P330 Roland piano module, which is sort of kind of like the baby brother, I suppose, to the MKS20. Again, didn't think I was going to actually sort of keep that sort of around for very long, but I tend to find I am using it in this when I'm doing stuff, so it has managed to stay around. It does need a good clean and a service, so I probably will do that, but it's being used, so it's stayed. And then in July, a Yamaha CX5M turned up. Now, for those of you who don't know what a Yamaha CX5M is, it's the Yamaha music computer that was issued sort of many years ago. So this would be early mid-80s, I suppose, off the top of my head. I'm not looking at my notes. And it was sort of kind of around the whole NSX experiment that was done with the Japanese electronics manufacturers. And they all jumped on the same bandwagon, actually. Basically, what the idea was, there was a specification of a machine in terms of how this machine actually worked and the architecture of the machine, and it was designed to run a form of Microsoft Basic. So that's basically what these machines came from, with Microsoft Basic, and then all the manufacturers then basically built the hardware around this architecture that had been agreed, so they could put all kinds of different things on the architecture as long as it worked with this MS-DOS Basic. And to be brutally honest, it worked fine. Loads of manufacturers did this. Loads of these machines were published by different manufacturers. They had interchangeable cartridges, the whole 9 yards. And it was kind of akin to where sort of the IBM PC sort of ended up a few years after that, when sort of the whole serious gaming market sort of moved to dedicated consoles, and the computer manufacturers then moved to sort of making IBM clones because that's where the money was. So that turned up again. The machine itself had a keyboard, it had the synthesizer cartridges, and it had a couple other cartridges, and you could go and buy more cartridges for it. So there was an FB01 editor, a DX7 editor, a sequencer, numerous cartridges that were produced for this thing, about 12 I think in total, and all dedicated to sort of music. The only problem with it is good for what it is good for. So if you are looking to sort of program an FB01, brilliant for that. If you're looking to program a couple of the other sort of early Yamaha pieces of equipment, brilliant for that. In terms of does it hold its own against a modern DAW installed on a computer, not a hope in hell. But it's a piece of legacy tech. It has a place in the storage, I think. So it's going to be kept around for a while. Then we had the interesting one, which was the Roland, the RM8 drum machine that arrived. Still no idea who sent that to me. So if you're watching this, thank you very much. If you want to make yourself known to me, please do so. Excuse me. Thank you very much. I'm still recovering from that cough and cold that I've had. It's driving me nuts. Then there was the upgrade to the actual sound recording in the front room. So as you now know, I bought a Mackie little 12 channel mixer for doing the sound recording and doing the mixing of live instruments when I'm using them in the front room. Has been an utter godsend. Really, really impressed with the whole sort of Mackie, how it works, and the USB interface to be able to get sound on and off various devices. So that has really, really helped. Definitely a big plus over the old Boss VX16 mixer I was using, which I have to be honest and say I think I am now going to sell on. So if anyone is interested in a Boss VX16 mixer, including power supply I might add, please drop me a comment. We'll see if we can come to some arrangement. And then the final piece of equipment arrived this year, of course, has been the Ensoniq EPS 16 Plus, which arrived just before Christmas, and I unveiled on the last rant of the year. And I have to be honest and say I really haven't given it any time yet. And of course I've now got the SQ2 as well, both of which I need to give some time to, just to see what they're all about. And was everybody that said Ensoniq were good really sort of saying Ensoniq were good? But watch this space, there's more to come. And then we move on to other interesting things that have come out of this year. One of the interesting things was the security breach on the channel, or attempted security breach, where somebody was trying to hack into the channel. Now, I'm not a very big channel. Why are you bothering hacking into my channel? But somebody did, and it forced me to sort of assess the security across all the social media feeds, the channel and the social media feeds, and change the security. I've changed all the passwords, I've changed all the security mechanisms, but it just sort of shows you, people are out there are trying to compromise your digital presence. And then I went on to sort of another video that I did in the year, which was all about eBay scamming and portal scamming, and whether you're buying something, is it actually, can it be used in a UK environment? And in particular, I was talking about actually IEC jacks to go in the back of synthesizers, where I convert them from European format into a UK earthed environment. Now, you have to look at these parts, and a lot of these parts, although they may seem genuine, have not been made with the right plastics and metals and God knows what else, and therefore can become potentially lethal. I mean, the classic one is a friend of mine had a an Apple charger, or what she thought was a genuine Apple charger, the white plug, if everybody knows what an Apple charger is. Bought it on eBay, didn't think nothing of it until it blew up, because it was a cheap Asian import. So, is it fit for UK use? September, the disk library that I've been working on for quite a while finally went live, and I have helped a number of people who've contacted me directly on the channel with source in disks that they needed. To date, most of that's been on the T1, because that's kind of where the idea came from, and I've got lots of T1 material. But, you know, I have got stuff now for the S50, the S550, the S750, and the TX16W. So I will be working out a way to get that more visible to you guys, so that, you know, if you have got needs on any of those platforms, you can just get in contact and we can then sort out what you seem to be lacking. September came along and everybody was running around with their hands in the air going, what the hell is Encore? And why Roland dropped ACB. Roland haven't dropped ACB, but now they've got two platforms that can do the same thing. Opened up a debate which I think is still rumbling along in the background. But the Jupiter XM is now out there, the MC707, which is now out there, and the Fathom is now out there, all of which using the Zencore engine. People who use them say that they're brilliant. I personally, I'm waiting for the X, because if I'm going to buy anything, it's going to be the X. And then in October, I actually changed my will in October to account for my digital assets, of which this channel is one of them, and what happens to these things should I die. Now, people may say, well, what the hell, why do you need to bother? And I say, well, maybe I probably don't, because, as I say, I do this for fun, but somebody still has to close this channel down if I should sort of get it by a bus tomorrow. But it's more importantly, if you're generating significant income from digital assets, the moment you die, in a lot of instances, those digital assets will be lost. They will be deleted. So you need some mechanism to allow people to actually take over control of your digital assets, or how those digital assets pass between people, especially if you're generating an income off them. And that is my year in review in about 25 minutes. Anyway, until next time, watch this space, the new recording studio area, and we'll see what happens. Until next time, bye-bye. If you liked the content of the video you've just seen, please give it a thumbs up. It just helps the YouTube algorithm with its selection process. If you want to leave a comment, please feel free to do that as well. Down below somewhere should be the ability to do that. I do try to respond to all the comments that are raised on the channel. Sometimes it takes me a few weeks because of what I'm doing, and I'm getting more and more and more comments and questions raised on the channel, so it just takes sometimes a little bit of time to do a bit of research. If you want to be notified when I put more rants, mailbergs, and videos about this sort of legacy tech and even modern tech on the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified by YouTube when stuff happens. I try to publish at least 2 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. Until next time, bye-bye.